Howdy friends, family and other creatures of the sea. Today we have a banger of a series from the Masters Colosseum number 6. It's bringing you a Terran versus Protoss with MARU in the bottom right, spawning as our red Terran player playing for On-Site Gaming. And in top left as our blue friend from Denmark, the man, the myth, the legend. It's of course MaxPax. There we go, playing for Storm Gaming with a quick scout across the map. Double gas coming out of MARU as we have some alternative walling here coming out of MaxiPaxi as well. Look at that. It's gonna get the tech building over here, I guess. Love to see it. Well, going for that Reaper wall has lost a bit of its popularity as of late. But still some type of walling, of course, in that main base. Now, aggressive little build order out of MARU, who still pretends to go for... Look at this. This is a nice move. MaxPax doesn't fall for it, though. So, MARU here pretended to want the command center on the low ground. MaxPax blocked it and then went back to check whether that command center actually went down. Command center didn't go down. MaxPax did not get a direct scout on that it is double gas, but might be capable of figuring it out anyway. Has finished his Zealot for God knows what reason, and is now chrono boosting a Stalker as well. So that is quite interesting to see. High ground command center, as the follow-up is not going to be a second Reaper, but instead a reactor. And in this particular scenario, things like a Zealot or a fast adept across the map could be very dangerous if the command center is on the low ground, because you just don't have any units to deal with it. Zealot is going to make its way across the map, see that there's nothing there, and probably head back home. Might actually pop in here to see what's producing, what's kicking off right now. It's going to see the timing on that command center as well. So at the same time, adept in the main base. We'll push this Reaper away before it gets the scout, the tech. Stalker makes its way across the map too, and now we have a Zealot attacking some depots over here. Mine is on the way, so a fairly standard follow-up, I would say. Just a simple mine drop here coming out of MARU. Not hugely fond of this particular build order, as MaxPax is going to get away with a fast Twilight Council, and as there's no armory going down, I don't really see how this is going to do extraordinary damage. Feels like MARU is playing this overly safe for no apparent reason here. Maybe he just feels that he is so much better than MaxPax that as long as he stays alive in the first 6 minutes of the game, he's going to be fine. But actually, in a way, this makes him more vulnerable to a 4-gate attack. But we'll get to that in a little bit. As this Reaper is actually dealing a decent amount of damage. Stalker completely idle, but big probes around on that Reaper is going to get it down. Sloppy play out of MARU. I don't think that medevac quite got spotted by the Stalker and Zealot patrol. That is fairly frustrating. MaxPax now moves back with the Stalkers. He's adding more gateways, as he always does, and will most likely go up to 4 gateways, just so he can, get back into the 4-gate groove. 4-gate blink, his favorite build, as MARU with a Cloak Banshee opener, and that I do really like, but we'll also get into that in a little bit, as 1 mine and 6 Marines move in towards the main base. This mine could get a decent shot, but it won't. We'll need to reburrow at this point. There's 3 Stalkers and an Adept, and well, at this point another good unburrow coming out of MARU. This is kind of scary, it honestly is. We're finally gonna get that shot. Another probe falls as well. 6, 7 workers have gone down. 8 workers have gone down. Blink is nowhere close near being finished. And honestly, I think this game is feeling pretty over at this point, in that MARU has dealt so much damage in the early game that I'm having a difficult time seeing how MaxPax is going to get back into this. Medevac stays alive as well. Yes, there are a lot of Stalkers coming across the map, and there's just a single tank for now. This is going to be a massive issue too. Is there even an Observer now? No Observer. Prism straight away. There's no real gas for an Observer. There's no third assimilator either. MaxPax just kind of getting blasted here in the early stages of this game. I think this is actually going to be the nail in the coffin. 6 Stalkers for MaxPax as he continues losing workers one by one. 27 to 37. Trolls is supposed to be up in workers at this point. And that is very far from the current situation, as an Observer does get chrono boosted, but even with just a single Stalker, it's going to take a very long time to kill this actual Banshee. Banshee could actually turn around, start fighting this Stalker if he really wanted to, or can just continue attacking these probes. Either choice, in my opinion, is going to be fine, as 8 more workers go down. 6 Stalkers now blink into the main. The second tank is out already, so it's going to be 2 tanks, a Banshee, and 9, 10 Marines over here, together with a medevac, as well as a bunker in every base. I mean, this is absolutely mission impossible. I don't think there's any way that MaxPax is going to become victorious in this game. Simply not viable. I'm still surprised by the early game mine drop. I don't think it should have dealt this much damage, especially not against the particular build order that MaxPax was going for. It did deal a lot of damage, and MARU is going to be very happy about that. Once again, we're going to have an attack here towards the natural. Big blink forward will take out one tank. Don't forget, marine production is fairly low, just a single barracks. MaxPax with good control, tank being caught kind of out of position. Stalker count is growing. It is 29 supply to 31. You require 11 stalkers to one-shot. Oh. Almost gets the observer. You require 11 stalkers to one-shot a tank. If this tank goes down, well, there's still a tank in backup. It's very far away, though. Yeah, MaxPax is not going to blink in. Picks up those 2 zealots as well. Trying to build some probes behind this, but both he and I know that he's very all-in at this moment. And that could potentially be an issue. Blink in towards the main base as this observer once again gets to stay alive. That's actually kind of sloppy here by MARU, losing 450 minerals trying to catch one observer. Not entirely worth it in my opinion, as this depot is going to get taken out. Here we get a move forward, tries to take out Stim, does get it. So Stim gets denied. That means that this push is going to have a slightly longer life. As the moment Stim finishes up, Blink Stalkers just become significantly worse. There's 2 tanks out, both of them on the high ground. As MaxPax continues warping in his opponent's main base. But this is a setup that I don't think El Maximus Maximus can actually break. Double scans here going down, seeing the lack of a third base on the other side. We have a blink towards the SCV line. Bunker gets taken out as well here. Tank out of position. Raven moving forward, throws down an auto turret. Tank now sieging up as 6 SCVs do go down. MaxPax actually making this a lot closer than I think it ever should be. 17 Stalkers to 19 Marines. 2 tanks as well. Honestly, most of this is just kind of sloppy movement coming out of MARU. And now we get a blink forward on top of that tank. There are 2 Banshees still alive. There's no observer available. As MaxPax individually picking up those Stalkers. Marines trying their best. Marauder in the back as well, dishing out a bit of damage. As Stim is now almost halfway done. It actually is halfway done, past the halfway point. 2 tanks on the low ground. I want to see a unit over here. I want to see an SCV being moved forward. You know your opponent doesn't have a third base. Why are you not playing this more safe, MARU? I don't quite get it. Constantly being caught out of position. Now ends up losing 2 tanks for free. Yes, Stim is very close, but this is still bad. This is improper play. MaxPax outplaying MARU despite being down 20 workers. I still believe that MARU is winning this very hard, but boy is it making it difficult for himself for no real reason. GG gets called, but honestly, if you struggle this hard for 4 minutes after killing 25 workers in the early game, it's going to be a very difficult series. I think most people tend to get a little bit more sloppy if they're very far ahead, but it was very improper play out of MARU, I think. And it does not bode well most of the time when it is this difficult to finish up a game where you get a huge advantage in the early game. I think a lot of games between MARU and MaxPax will look something along those lines. Is MARU tries something risky or something aggressive in the early game, because that's what he does most of the time. And then MaxPax is either following this up with some type of 3-gate Blink Stalker or 4-gate Blink Stalker all in. And I think a lot of that kind of revolves around those early game, these traits in the early game and whether damage can be dealt with the units. Scouting of MaxPax, I'd love to see no Zealot this time around. I'm really not a fan of the Zealot. I say this very often, and I'm kind of tired. I never see a Zealot really do anything in this matchup. I honestly don't. Like, Terrans, in general, just play too safe. So whenever you build a Zealot, it feels like... I can show you right now, actually. So if you were to build a Zealot, that usually delays your Nexus, it delays your pylon, but it also delays your second gas by quite a bit. If you delay your second gas, you're going to have slower tech and just less gas units in general, and things like not having blink ready when you need to be ready, or getting a Stargate. These things are going to be really difficult to achieve. So unless you have some specific information that a Zealot is going to be very useful, I think a good general rule is to not get a freaking Zealot in the early game against Terran, because it really does cut into your worker count. And like I said, it never really achieves anything. See a Reaper just scouting around here for any potential proxy gates. Once again, Reaper into Reactor. Command Center is going to be placed on the high ground as a result, either over here. Oh, wow. That is very much in vision and also not close at all to this natural. Surely this location is simply just better, but then again, who am I to doubt one of the greatest players that StarCraft 2 has ever produced? Stargate now gets built as a battery goes down in the natural. MaxPack's well aware of the fact that it's a double gas, and I much prefer his setup here over the one from last game. I'm a huge fan of Stargate versus 2 gas. I'm a huge fan of Stargate in general. So no matter what MARU would have played, I would have said I'm a huge fan of this. But against 2 gas in particular, I think it is very powerful. It makes it much easier to deal with any early game threat. And also just, it's nice, you know, flying around your Phoenixes, having a good old time. Feels good, you know, what can I say? It's not to be the same build order. It's an interesting one that I haven't actually seen played so much. 6 Marine drop with a mine. Very fast tech lab behind this. And the Reaper tries to get scouting information. I wonder if he's going to change anything up after scouting this. Ooh, does that probe die? Yeah, it does die. So gets a kill there on the Reaper, gets the scouting info, throws down the Cyclone. Something you could do is follow this up with a Viking as well. Yeah. Wow. This is a really cool build order. I actually do enjoy this. He's going to stay at home with the Marines and the mine. And his goal probably is going to be to try and catch a Phoenix or an Oracle or whatever you can catch. This mine is in an interesting position. Could get a hit in. Doesn't. Okay, no, it does. Does get a hit in. So this Phoenix needs to be way more careful right now. We have a second gateway out. We have a robotics facility on the way. We're adding in another Cyclone. So MARU here definitely kind of committing to the plot here of going for some type of 1-1-1 push. One more Viking, I think, could be produced here as well as a reinforcement unit. There we go. We see some minor SCV cuts every now and again. And minor SCV cuts always indicate that it's going to be some type of push. Now, if you scout this and your max packs, what do you think to yourself? You think, well, I'm okay with this. Second battery is on the way already. Immortals being chronoed out. There's 2 gateways for production. We have 4 Phoenixes. Phoenixes ideally are across the map, picking up reinforcements. I think MaxPack was a little slow to the realization here. This push did absolutely nothing though. 3rd CC. Now something that would be big right now is scouting that 3rd CC. And I would love for these Phoenixes to not go to his own main base, but to his opponent's natural. I think this is the correct call as well. Needs to be careful not to get caught. Yeah, he's very afraid, MaxPack. He doesn't quite know what's down here or down here. There could be a Viking or there could be another Cyclone, of course. The longer you delay the scout from the Protoss at this point as Terran, the better it's going to be. Because that means that probes won't be chrono boosted yet. Right now, MaxPack is still in a mode where he's afraid of dying. If he scouts the CC and the barracks going down, he should not be afraid of dying anymore. He should be very happy. He can start getting a Forge, a Twilight, cut Phoenix production for a little bit, chrono out some probes as well, and maybe even take a fort base. I wouldn't mind if MaxPack here double expands. This is something that, oh my god, what a beautiful timing here. It's going to kill the Raven straight away. Might end up losing a Phoenix. No, keeps everything alive. And double E-base get thrown down here as well. Oh, mine does get 1 Phoenix. These bad boys will turn around. So yeah, we get the Forge, we get the Twilight. And there's really 2 paths that MaxPack can walk here. It's a bit of a fork in the road. He can either start adding a lot of gateways at this moment, like once he starts getting closer and closer to 60 workers, or he can throw down a fort base. Now, as a macro monster, I obviously would love to see that fast fort base here being added in. I think it's generally a very good call. But MaxPack's playing it safer, or perhaps playing it more aggressive, adds in a couple of gateways. He is aware of the fact, yeah, that there is a 3rd command center. You need to be very careful here as Protoss. 6 extra gateways being added. It's gonna stick with 4 gases, I think. It is going to be a 3rd Colossus. Very often in this type of scenario, you'll see a quick prism being produced instead. I guess charge is still a little bit too far away. And then some type of all-in. MaxPack is moving across the map. Now there are 2 tanks, but 2 tanks are not enough against a high charge lot count. 2 tanks are going to be fine against the current army that MaxPax is working with. I actually feel that MaxPax might be overstepping. Maybe a tiny bit here. These Phoenixes are very low. I guess there's only 1 Viking though. The 3 Cyclones are not going to be super useful. Yeah, tanks will deter this push. Here come the Cyclones. We'll try and take out a sentry. We'll manage to take out a sentry. As at the same time, a Marine gets a scout here on the fort base. Templar Archives gets thrown down. Yeah, this is just it's going to be a very clean push out here. Stim will be done. Combat shield will be done. 1-1 will be done as well. So all upgrades will be ready for both players. Everything that's being researched right now is going to come into play. I think this might be an incorrect move out though, out of MARU. MARU not realizing how low worker count MaxPax is here. Not realizing at all how low worker count MaxPax is. These Zealot run-bys are going to come in. They're going to hit hard. There's no bunker at the third. This push of MARU is designed to deny a fort base. The problem is that if MaxPax gets his fort base cancelled but kills 10, 15 workers, MARU is way more all in than he wants to be. Goes in for a drop towards the main base. I like this play, but as there is no wall here, Colossus move in right now and are going to be capable of taking this out. Phoenixes have been destroyed. Zealots show up in 2, 3 bases at the same time. MARU's response so far is, well, simply not good enough. He doesn't have enough units in the natural. He doesn't have enough units in the main. SCV's being taken out. MaxPax technically doesn't really need to defend this right now, but he is going to, and he is surviving. I don't think he's going to get taken out. Battery finishes up as well here. 60 workers to 45 as MARU gets pushed back while losing 28 workers simultaneously. MaxPax on 4 bases, starting his +2 already. I'd love to see a second fort. Okay, there is a second fort. I'd love to see it start researching right now. I think moving out is kind of silly in a way. You're so far up in workers right now. It is obvious to me and to everyone involved that MARU, the only thing that he has left right now in his bag of tricks is going to be some type of 1-1 push. So perhaps just try and stay defensive for a bit. But no, MaxPax wants to be aggressive here. MARU picks up a lot of his units in medevacs wanting to go for a drop, but instead will need to reroute these into his natural to try and get a defense going. Zealots attacking the third base right now as well. Vikings moving into position. There are no reinforcements. No, there are. Prism shows up, and with these Archons and no Ghost available, I do believe that MaxPax will be just fine. GG gets called. MaxPax with a beautiful win here on Royal Blood, tying up the series against the Korean powerhouse. It really often feels like that when you have a triple CC opener from Terran that gets scouted at any point and the early 1-1-1 deals no damage, that they maneuver themselves into quite a tricky position. I think it's one of those things that whenever you talk with a Protoss player, almost none of them complain about the 1-1-1 into triple CC. I think triple CC builds by themselves are not necessarily bad. I think there's some actual good triple CC builds that are from a single barracks and no other production facilities. But the scouting from TOS, from minute 4 on out, most of the time is just going to be too good for 1-1-1 into triple CC builds to be viable, because it just relieves so much pressure from the Protoss, right? You know you have that 1-1-1-1 timing, which most of the time isn't going to pull SCVs either. So it's a really non-committed timing in a way. Like, it's wanting to take out a third base that gets thrown down too quick. It's that type of thing that you're planning on countering, which majority of the time there's just not going to be a very fast third base if there's a Stargate opener. It's just not so common. You do see it sometimes, but even then, honestly, I think these non-committed 1-1-1s, it's kind of a middle-of-the-road build, and I think MaxPax dealt with it beautifully. Had a good setup with those run-bys as well. But even before those run-bys got in, I think his position already was quite a bit better. MARU tried to go in with that triple drop, didn't quite work out and paid the price. Now we're seeing, once again, a double gas opener with that fake SCV moving towards the low ground. MaxPax bites the bait. Honestly, I would have as well after seeing someone play the same build twice in a row. This is not very common, I think, at the highest levels, to see someone play the same build, the exact same build twice in a row. As this probe does get locked in. I do believe, theoretically, it's best to just recall this probe right now. I wonder if that's what MaxPax does as well. Yep, there we go. That's a load of a recall on that probe. And as a result, we'll have to wait a bit longer with recalling his adept. Immediately throws down a battery in the main base, which is interesting. I've never been a huge battery enjoyer in my main mineral line. I'm more of a natural battery enjoyer, but that's because I often also have a wall to lock out any Reapers. The Reaper wall has lost some of its popularity. It's going to be a Twilight, by the way. No, it's not. Nice call, Kevin. Well, I saw the Warp Gate being researched. I was like, well, surely this is Twilight material, but it really wasn't. No second unit quite yet. Seems to me like it's going to be a Stalker then. Yep, there we go. And the Warp Gate should start soon as well. Another battery gets added in, so very safe play coming out of MaxSpec. Despite there only being a single Reaper, of course, that is very difficult to get information on. And MARU must be aware of that, so he'll play this build, Reaper into Reactor. So far, exact same setup. It will actually follow the same build order 3 times in a row. I'll be a little bit surprised. One of the main strengths that Terran has, in my opinion, is the ability to have a lot of different openers, is that it's so difficult for TOS to know beforehand what's kicking off. I think you're shooting yourself in your foot just a little bit if you open with a 6 Marine plus Mine plus Medevac every single game. You're really losing on some of the diverse Terran build orders that there are. Second gate gets thrown down. I think we'll see a follow-up into one more Phoenix and then a robotics facility. This is a later robotics facility than a lot of the Korean Protoss players like to get. Korean Protoss players like to get it kind of before that second Phoenix, often before the second gateway as well. This is what I've seen out of Hero. This is what I've seen out of Classic too. Just a bit greedier when it comes to that robo timing, and perhaps even getting gases before the gateway goes down, saying, hey, what's the point of this gateway? Now, MARU has scouted the Stargate, still decided to move out here with 6 Marines and a Reaper inside. Mine had to stay at home. It's a Viking Cyclone follow-up once more. I'm kind of afraid here that we're seeing the exact same setup. This actually is the exact same setup, and it's the exact same defensive setup for MaxSpecs. That does make a little bit of sense to me, at least, is that you go for the exact same defensive setup many times if you scout something similar, because this is simply the best setup you can have. Forward battery now being added in as well. That's going to help out, having 2 layers of batteries. Sometimes you see people build 2 batteries next to each other, but having 2 layers of batteries is actually very helpful as well. One a bit further forward, one a bit further in the back. That means that if there's tanks in a push, they need to kind of crawl forward a bit more. And tanks are most vulnerable when they're unsieged. So always something to keep in mind. Just layering batteries can be very useful every now and again, specifically against Terran. Robotics facility, robotics bay gets built here as this Immortal gets chronoed. This time the follow-up is going to be double Rex, as well as once more this Raven. This is a non-committed 1-1-1 once more. We see no SCVs here. So if this deals any damage, that would be very bad. But I don't think it can deal any damage. Here comes a probe moving forward. We see no Umbro on the mine, and a probe for a mine is always going to be a good trade. Third base now gets thrown down as well, as MaxSpecs is aware of the fact that he can hold this with ease. Sends his Phoenixes around to maybe try and pick off a couple of SCVs. And honestly, if he gets any amount of SCVs here, that would be grand. It really would be fantastic. Raven has popped out and is just chilling in this general area. I think 3 workers will go down minimum. Oh, it's gonna be more. 4, maybe even 5. This is kind of big, honestly. Yeah, this is always the risk when you're moving out as a Terran with these 1-1-1 pushes. You just don't have any defensive forces to deal with those Phoenixes. MARU not being home in time. 5 workers is 5 workers. That's 250 minerals you'll need to replace. There is a lost mining time as well. That's going to be difficult to get back. Marauders are in production at this point as 2 Cyclones move in towards the main. Don't forget with the Raven, there is a timing here. Interference Matrix can take out these Colossus, as we'll have first Colossus finishing up right now. And this is a beautiful map for a push like this as well, because there's a huge open area that is difficult to defend, is difficult to force field. I think this requires 4 force fields, which MaxSpecs definitely doesn't have at the moment. 2 more workers do get taken out though. Once more, MARU getting called out of position. He's kind of having these Cyclones in a general spot in which they're defending neither base. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think he has enough units to effectively split and make sure that this doesn't happen, but that's not quite what he's doing. Sentry being warped in. We have 1 battery on this base, 2 batteries over here. We'll have to wait and see how MaxSpecs is going to deal with this. What is the current energy count on the Raven? I think we're climbing up to 150. MaxSpecs wants to snipe that, because without a snipe on that Raven, that means 2 interference matrices. Moving into this area seems like a mistake, in my opinion at least. I think the general spot over here is much stronger, much harder to deal with as well. As a Protoss player, here comes number 1, here comes number 2. Yep, there we go. Not enough force fields, but like I said, this is still going to be a nice defensive location here for MaxPax. Cannon is going ham to Immortals, shooting at a high pace as well, targeting down Immortals. As the Phoenixes deal with the Vikings, and one Colossus stays alive. The next one is about to pop out as well. Was this a good trade for MARU? I don't think it necessarily was. I feel like if he was in between the bases, the beauty of being in between the bases is that if you interference matrix 2 Colossus and they move back into a very defensive setup, you just walk to the left and they can't chase you out in the open. That means you get a lot of worker kills for free, or you get some free Colossus as well. Interference matrix lasts for a long time, so that gives you about 10-11 seconds of unchecked free roaming in your opponent's natural. Could potentially take out a robotics facility as well, which would be huge. Like, there's so many things you can do in that case, and that is one of the main reasons why hitting in between 2 bases, especially with a Raven, is considered much, much superior to what MARU just did. Just running into a base, hoping your opponent doesn't have enough static defense, doesn't have the energy for a super battery, and that definitely was I think MARU kind of misunderstanding his position in the game. He might have believed that he was further ahead than he really was, because I don't believe he was that far ahead. I think he had a timing window that was about 15 to 20 seconds long. He did hit the timing, but he hit in the incorrect position. Now, there's 3 Colossus out there in the middle of the map. It seems like MaxPax is very keen to start moving out. Has checked the entire map for any units there. So now is very aware of the fact that there is nothing here on the map that could deal with him. Prism is out. Is it going to head in towards the main base, or will it join the main army? I don't know yet. Templar's being warped in right now as +2 starts here for MARU. And we see what is this? Marines? Yeah, trying to deny a potential Prism drop. These Zealots will move in towards the 3rd base, and MaxPax will come from in between those 2 bases. This is kind of scary. Colossus is not necessarily very strong, as MARU completely out of position to deal with this drop. I mean, it's not going to deny it. It will still be capable of killing those Zealots. In a way, this might be nicer, as you cost your opponent 400 minerals. Zealots now heading in towards the natural, at the same time heading in towards the 3rd base. MARU needs to pay attention to this. Is not pulling workers away in the natural, as the mines do get connections. 8 workers going down. Colossus slowly but surely pushing forward. Will maybe clear 1 or 2 more mines. Did the Prism get pushed back or killed? No, it just got pushed back. Do we have Prism speed? No, we don't. Second robotics facility on the way, but the worker count looking mighty fine here for MaxPax, who's throwing down a 5th base as well right now. MARU hasn't even started his 4th. Never mind. Wait, the 4th is done. I saw something just finish. Wait, yeah, okay, there we go, it's in the main base. I thought I was going crazy. I didn't see it at all, but I saw it in the production tab. There we go. Okay, so 4th base has finished. That is something. I thought it hadn't even started yet. That does make MARU's position better than I imagined. Still, I much prefer the way that MaxPax is playing here. I prefer his position by quite a bit. Vikings now get picked off for free by this Phoenix squad. There are 4 Vikings out. MaxPax planning on moving in here, perhaps. It's MARU pretending to set up a bit of a flank. Zealots in towards the natural. Colossus, Archon, Zealot, Disruptor, all in the 3rd base as 2 force fields go down. Not the greatest force fields in the world. A bunch of these SCVs will end up falling to the Zealot move-in. Not really a run-by, just a quick move-in. Takes out 3-4 extra workers. Another Zealot run-by gets set up here. As MaxPax is driving MARU completely crazy with the constant Zealot run-ins. With the constant aggression, really. I don't think there's many Protoss players that would be as comfortable being on the map as MaxPax is in this series. He just says, hey, if I have Colossi, I can be on the map. If you don't have enough Vikings. I'm not sure if this is actually true. Sometimes it feels like he's in a very scary position. I definitely would not be this aggressive if my opponent has 3 more upgrades than me, has this many Vikings and this many Marauders. It just feels wrong to do, but MaxPax continues doing it, and with pretty decent success. 83 workers to 70. The one thing he is lacking, though, are those upgrades. Those need to be added in. Another 5 Zealot potential run-by gets split off towards the bottom side. Bunker gets reconstructed. Viking count up to 10 right now. Finally, we get a ghost out. Hell, it's about time. It's decent. Well, never mind. Not decent enough splits at all. Loses a big chunk of his army for absolutely free. MARU with some sloppy control so far. Now we'll be taking out some of these Zealots, losing a lot of these SCVs, are not being pulled away. MaxPax completely outplaying his opponent here with just pure speed, it feels like. Maru's control and decision-making has been very good, but every single time Zealots are running in, SCVs are not being pulled away, units are not in position. There's no sensor tower either, which in my mind would be hugely beneficial to track the movement here of the Protoss army. Sensor tower covers so much on this map, yet is not being used. Ghosts finally have hit the field. We get a couple of EMPs. Now we need to start fighting. Can these disruptors push this army back for long enough? A huge disruptor shot there on the far right side. More disruptors coming forward. Maru just tanking hit after hit after hit. EMP does connect with the massive Archon army over here. And 168 supplied to 138 right now. Bunker does get cleared. As we might be in some serious trouble. If you're a Maru fan, these Zealots are going absolutely ham. Bunker is going to burn down at the same time. More and more Warpins coming in. We have 12 gateways, Blink on the way, Colossus being reproduced. 6th base going down for MaxPax, while Maru is barely mining from 3 right now. Disruptor shots being sent forward. This 3rd base is toast, and all of those SCVs could be going down as the Zealots get the connections with them. Forces a liftoff. Sensor tower finishes, but also gets destroyed instantly. Here comes Maru. I think this is pretty much the final stand as these Purification Novas get big connections. And the next Warpin of MaxPax is already on the way. His army needs to kite back, but it can't really kite back much further. It's already in the natural. Here come 12 more gateway units. And with the 2-1 upgrades, it's going to be enough. Maru gets absolutely destroyed here by MaxPax in this best of 3. Phenomenal play from the Danish player. Even in game number 1, I think we saw, honestly, a better MaxPax than Maru. It's just, Maru had such a large lead in that game that it felt impossible to come back. But if that was a closer game in the early game, I don't see any way that Maru, with the movement that he was going for, with the complete lack of scouting for his opponent's movement, I don't think Maru would have won that. And MaxPax really showing that he's on a higher level at the moment than even some of the best Terran players in the world is a great sight to watch. I'd love to see MaxPax at some point at these big international tournaments offline in the future, but so far it hasn't happened quite yet at this level of play. And you gotta imagine that, you know, that we're looking at a future world champion. Like such good performances for such a consistently long time. Like I don't know many other tosses that are capable of doing it, you know, in such a dominant fashion. So yeah, I hope to see him at some of these bigger tournaments at some point. But for now, we'll be enjoying him in the online scene. I hope you all enjoyed this as well. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Be sure to hit that like button, don't forget. This is a game from the Masters Coliseum number 6. So shout out to them. And I'm glad I managed to get some of these replays. Adios.